Hello there, I'm Professor Simon Haslett, Dean of the School of STEM at the University of Wales. And I'm here at Glyndwr University on what is a beautiful day here in Wrexham for the start and the first day of the Wrexham Science Festival for 2011. Now, I'm really looking forward to today in particular because we're starting off the festival with an academic conference that's been jointly organised by staff in my school, the School of STEM at the University of Wales, and also our colleagues here at Glyndwr University. Now the day is split into two with a health symposia this morning, followed by an afternoon of talks on science and the environment. So I'm really looking forward to the day. Hopefully the weather will stay nice and we'll have a fantastic set of talks throughout the conference. Hi there, I'm here at the Wrexham Science Festival for the first day, which is all about which is an academic day. It's split into two symposia, one about health-related talks in the morning and science and the environment in the afternoon. But it's great to be with Dr. Lynn Kennedy now at the moment from Glyndwr University, who's just given a talk on public health. I just wanted to know really what were your highlights for the talk really? What would you like to emphasise?
I think the key points I wanted to make today was the fact that public health, although is very traditionally from a medical background, is actually much more to public health than medical sciences, psychology, ethics, political sciences, microbiology, pathology, etc. I mean, some of those are medical science, but it's much broader these days.
Oh, right. So you're because I'm a geographer, and yeah. You were talking about epidemiology, and you mentioned the word patterns and spatial patterns as well.
Exactly. I mean, the key science underpinning public health and traditional public health has been epidemiology, so it's where we've looked to try and describe and explain the patterns of disease within populations or communities, identifying those populations that are most at risk, or those sectors of populations that are most at risk, and then using that data to try and unravel what are the mechanisms within the causal relationships and what are the risks, the risk factors that are influencing the outcomes, such as the relationship between diet and coronary heart disease. We use geography or patterns to help us to understand that.
Oh, it's fascinating. And you also had a historical dimension in your talk as well. When you found the 19th century and so on. And what's changed over that time?
Fundamentally, I mean, public health has been around for thousands of years. I would say that within contemporary public health, so looking from the Industrial Revolution in the 1800s to today, there's been 5 key phases. So moving from a focus on sanitation and housing and sewerage systems to ensure that people can live in safe environments and to control and reduce or minimise the risk of infection. To today, we're now looking at moving on from the medical and therapeutic eras to more about health and well-being, what makes people happy and what helps, what are the resources that make people stronger in order to be able to swim successfully in the river of life, to stay healthy.
Well, thanks very much, Lynn. Okay. Really interesting, and hopefully we'll have a great day here at Wrexham.
And thank you very much for hosting the event.
Thank you very much. Right, we're at the Wrexham Science Festival in the afternoon of the first day, and we've had a really great lot of talks today. First of all from the health sciences, and then from science and the environment. And that was kicked off by a keynote from Professor Graham Wilkinson from Glyndwr University. Graham, just what were your highlights that you're trying to get across in your talk?
I think the key thing is these days, the Earth is actually surrounded by satellites, so constantly trying to gather information and understand what's happening to the environment, how we're having an impact on it, whether it's impact on the landscape, on our atmosphere, on the oceans or whatever. And I think most people don't realise that there are probably 20, 30 satellites up there constantly circling the Earth, trying to gather information and just see what's happening to our planet. And it's been going on now for over 50 years, and we're constantly developing the satellites and the technology and the analysis techniques to understand what's happening to the planet, basically.
Right, and so you gave some great examples. You mentioned desertification, retreating ice sheets, and pollution.
And changes to the forests, changes to the urban landscapes, a huge number of changes, and all of them in some way are quite subtle, but when you begin to piece them all together, you begin to see huge changes to the overall planetary environment. So it's quite an interesting situation.
Now you talked about things like Landsat and the early satellites and so on, but I guess for most people in the public, they're going to be most familiar with Google Earth as their sort of satellite view of the Earth, you know. So what technology does Google Earth use?
Well, of course, Google Earth, they use satellites to give you pictures which can be very detailed of the Earth's surface, but of course the scientists use satellite to give you a lot more information in terms of not just one sort of visible image, but a very complex set of infrared images to tell you a lot more detail about the state of the atmosphere, the state of the ocean, the state of the land surface and so on, the state of vegetation. So Google Earth is very good, it uses satellites, but the scientists tend to use the more sophisticated sensors which gather a lot more information.
Right, and also in Google Earth, I don't know whether you know much about the extra facilities, you know, that you can actually look at go side on oblique views.
Yes.
Look at mountains side on and so on.
Well, of course, the ability to use computer modelling is fascinating these days, and to be able to actually create 3D pictures and move around in 3 dimensions. That's all done by the technology we have available nowadays. So it's really quite exciting.
That's fascinating. Well, thank you very much, Greg.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We're here at the Wrexham Science Festival, and this afternoon, my colleague here, Dr. Simon Jones, is going to be giving us a talk. And Simon, what's it going to be about?
Well, it's about volcanism and Stromboli, which people perhaps won't have heard of, but they will have. Stromboli is the world's most active volcano. It's been going like a coffee percolator for the last 3,000 years, but every 15 minutes it goes off. Your kids will know it because Stromboli is one of the main characters in Pinocchio, and you might know it because Stromboli is always the name given to a pizza with extra chilies on top. So where does all that come from? Well, we've got Etnaean eruptions, which happen spectacularly for a couple of days every decade or so, and then we've got Strombolian eruptions, which happen all the time. The significance of Stromboli is severalfold. Firstly, it's a fantastic, popular tourism destination, just to be on a volcano these days. But particularly pernicious when you get there is that with landslips because of volcanoes, it leads to 10-metre high tsunamis in the Mediterranean, which put a lot of the Italian mainland, the western coast, at risk, and the northern coast of Sicily. So there's an awful lot of people who might know Stromboli, but in the most wrong of ways at some point in the future. It's that physical geography textbook coming to life.
Yeah. So, has there been any large historic tsunami related to the volcano in the Mediterranean?
What's really fascinating there is we have regular tsunamis. There was one in 1944, one in 54, particularly one in 2002, which really brought the science of tsunamis and volcanism together. But as is always the way with these, there is known in prehistory to have been a mega tsunami where pretty much a third of the volcano fell away, and goodness knows what impact that had. Now, that is always possible again with the geography of the volcano at the moment.
Right. And what about hazards from a volcanic eruption itself? If we had a really big one from Stromboli, what sort of radius of area would be affected?
Stromboli is interesting because it coffee percolates. You know, it's every 15 minutes. You might get hit by a bomb. That would hurt. But it's actually the tsunami gives about 17 minutes notice of a 1.5 metre wave to the northern coast of Italy. And that's sort of Milazzo, Palermo, all the way up to Capri, about half an hour away. The unregulated planning, the lack of coastal defences, the tourism beaches, you'd soon enough know about it. It's a hugely popular tourism area, that's where we know. And the risk is really every 10, 20 years at the moment, with the build-up of material on the slopes and then their instability and crashing into the sea. We're vulnerable both to volcanism and landslides, but also to submarine material. Stromboli, let's not forget, only has a third above the sea at 1,000 feet. There's
Right.
2,000 metres of
It's a bit like an
below.
iceberg then.
Oh, well, not quite 90-20, 90-10, but yeah, absolutely like that.
Yeah.
So it's what we're increasingly understanding is it's the submarine landslides that pose the threat, because you can't actually see them until they're happening.
Okay. Fascinating stuff. Thank you very much, Simon.
Cheers.
Thank you. I'm here at Wrexham train station, having just left the Wrexham Science Festival first day for this year 2011, which was the academic day, a programme put together by staff at the University of Wales in the School of Science, Technology, Engineering and Maths, and colleagues here at Glyndwr University. We had a wonderful day. It was split into two. The morning was a symposia on health sciences, and we had some fantastic and highly debated talks about topics such as occupational sciences, public health, complementary therapies, and also a fascinating keynote to start the day on with the question, what makes you happy, which was really good. And we did actually finish the morning with a look at academic databases, online repositories for scientific papers, which was quite fascinating, and shows the future of perhaps of how research literature is kept. Then we had a lunchtime at which there was an opportunity to look at a number of postgraduate student posters in the foyer of the Catherine Finch building in Glyndwr University, which again there was some really interesting posters there that we looked at. And then this afternoon was a symposium on science and the environment, and we had some interesting collections of papers. We had two papers which dealt with sustainability and sustainable development. And those together were very interesting, including looking at the use of ryegrass as a biofuel, and also looking at the Welsh strategy, One Wales, One Planet, which attempts to embed sustainability, both in environmentalism, and the speaker also talked about social housing as well. So it's a really interesting little set of papers there. Also more technical papers on electromagnetics, and a keynote right at the beginning looking at the use of satellites in remote sensing, and how we can use these remote images, some very beautiful images, and we saw the history of how satellite imagery or images taken from space had evolved, and how they can be used to look at environmental impacts on the Earth's surface. Such as deforestation, desertification, the retreat of ice sheets, and pollution in the atmosphere, able to not just look at the landscape, but look at the composition of the atmosphere. That was really interesting. And we had a couple of papers, including mine, on natural hazards, looking at flooding, coastal flooding, storms, tsunami, and also a talk on volcanoes, which of course, as well as the eruptions, volcanoes can also generate tsunamis as well. So a wonderful collection of papers this afternoon in the Science and Environment Symposium, a wonderful collection of papers this morning in the Health Sciences Symposium. A real successful day. I think the audience really appreciated it. It was free to the general public, and many members of the public did actually come as well as academics and students. So a mixed audience, but very good talks, a lot of debate, a lot of discussion. The question periods at the end of the papers were fully utilised, a good selection of posters, a really promising day. Let's hope we can do this again next year and perhaps turn it into a two-day event. Anyway, from Wrexham on this very sunny day, goodbye.